Welcome back to another episode of After the Poll. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Guys, we got a lot of great comic books to talk about today. But before we dive into it, I gotta give a quick shout out to Whatnot. Guys, there is a link in my description box below. Just click on it. You will download Whatnot. It's absolutely for free, no cost to you. In fact, when you create your profile and make your first purchase on there, when you win your first auction, you're gonna get $15 off. So if there is a comic book that you've been looking for and you want to get a discount on it, hey man, $15 from me to you, no strings attached. Guys, just use the link in the description box below. We got quite a few books to talk about. Hopefully you will enjoy this new version of After the Poll. I just want to let you know that I'm going to be talking about the books that are not number ones. If you want to check out the books that have to do with the new number ones that were released, you can check out my series called Worthy Ones, where it's a series where all I discuss is the new number one issues, and I will be giving grades to each comic like I do in Worthy Ones because a lot of you guys like that. So yeah, a little bit of a twist to this video, and hopefully it adds a little bit to it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's just jump right into it. Okay, so the first book we're going to be talking about is a book that you guys are like, Mike, why are you still reading this book? Why haven't you dropped it? Because I am holding on to the fact there's actually going to be a real story behind this, and this went to Fantastic Four. This is issue 6. That's right, guys. The first 4 issues we had to deal with the characters one-shots, basically, right? And in the last issue, we were led to believe that there's going to be a real story moving forward here when it comes to the Fantastic Four. We got to see this bacteria that wound up growing in the world or in the city, and our Fantastic Four somehow has to stop this bacteria from growing or it will kill the entire food chain. So in this book, and like we've seen in every other single Fantastic Four book, right, what happens is we get to see Reed overanalyze everything and talk his brains to death, which I get it. That's the character. That's what he does, right? But it's such a boring issue. Like, we're discussing about freaking bacteria. And it's just like they're the greatest superheroes in the world or superhero family, and they can't stop bacteria. And Thing actually says that in this comic book. But they do figure out a way to stop this stuff. They block out, they take the sun's rays and they block them out for 3 days. Invisible Woman does that. Sue Storm and Johnny Storm does that together, right? And we get people protesting on the streets and everything else. They save the day like they're supposed to. But at the end of it all, Maria Hill doesn't like Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, that she can instantly kill life on Earth by blocking out the sun's rays. So now she's wanted by S.H.I.E.L.D., and we wind up seeing Johnny going, "We're not going with you." Like, it wound up becoming so out of character for Johnny, and at that point, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, why would they run from Maria Hill? Why not just have a conversation with her instead of running, right? So I was like definitely disappointed. So I'm gonna give this book a C. It wasn't horrible. It was entertaining read, but there's just too much dialogue, right? And this book doesn't really have a real direction. It did have a cliffhanger, but I don't know if I like that cliffhanger. So am I going to continue to read it? One more issue. No, I truly am. One more issue, and that is it, because it's the Legacy issue 700. I want to see what it has to offer for its readers, and I'm sure it's got some cool Doctor Doom covers and stuff like that. So one more issue, and then I'll drop it. The next book we're going to be talking about is Dark Ride. We are on issue 5. It took a little bit of a break. It's back. It's written by Joshua Williamson. This is a story about this haunted amusement park that was created by this man who sold not only maybe his soul to the devil, but to everyone else's souls. So this park would be a hit park. It would be the phenomenon that everyone wants to go to, right? We've learned a little bit about the history of the sister and the brother in this issue. We actually get to see the mother on how she gave birth to the twins and how they are heirs to this amusement park. Kind of creepy. Great artwork in this book. And we get to see the sister. I think she calls her name Halloween or something like that. She's a, influencer on the internet and for the park itself. She's taking she's following the footsteps of the father and being kind of like the evil one. And then we get the brother who's trying to investigate, like going in depth of what's happening in the park on what the deep dark secrets are. And we wind up getting to see him team up with a former employee's brother that wound up working at the park, got murdered there. So they wind up going into the deep dark secrets of the amusement park, and they uncover something that you weren't expecting to see. So really good series overall. I'm going to give this book an A. This book is so intriguing. I love everything about it. I love the artwork. I'm a huge amusement park fan myself, being that I live in Orlando, and I'm also a horror fan, so I cannot go wrong with this book. It's always a page turner. The next book we're talking about is the conclusion to Born of Blood. This is issue 6. This miniseries has been absolutely phenomenal with Giaris and Leonidas becoming a couple, and then eventually by the time you get to the end of this, they get married, and we get to see their journeys and their struggles along the way. And in this issue, you wind up seeing Giaris go against a confidant that betrayed her, and it was very interesting. The artwork is always very good. Now, this is not an all ages book. This is for a older audience. There's a lot of gore, there's a lot of sex and stuff like that, but overall it's a very interesting book. I love all the battle scenes. I love the Spartan age, and I think it's very entertaining, and I'm so curious to see where this book is going to go forward, or where this series is going to be going forward. Now, I know the people behind this book, and they gave me an insight, but they're not sure if they're going to go in that direction or not. If they do, I'm very hopeful that it does go in this direction, because here at the end of this comic, it went into some kind of like supernatural direction that I did not expect to go in, but I loved it, and it was very enjoyable. It wasn't a very predictable comic. Here we get to see the horror theme that was presented in the book, and just a lot of fun. So this was a book that was never on my radar. It was a Kickstarter, and it definitely exceeded my expectations. And that's when I say go out there and support those Kickstarter books, man, because there are some great creators out there. So Born of Blood, I'm going to give this book a B. I definitely recommend it. Hopefully it's released in trade so you guys can check it out. And we have Miles Morales Spider-Man. This is issue 5. Issues 1 through 4, guys, have definitely been a nice surprise. I've enjoyed this series tremendously, and I'm going to continue to recommend this book. This book, we get to see the conclusion of Miles Morales fighting Rabble, which is the newest villain in the Rogue Gallery. However, unfortunately, it doesn't look like this character is going to be around any longer, as it seems like she blows herself up at the end of the last issue, but you never know. This is comic books. This character can make its appearance. This book is very explosive. There's a lot of action that happens on the pages of the comic book, and as a reader, I almost felt like there was too much. It was kind of hard to make out what was going on, right? You're just like, man, this thing is all over the place. It's very just explosive, like I said, energetic, but that's not a bad thing. And the way the characters look, they look great. I mean, I love the detail that goes into them. I love the colors that go into them. Somehow, some way, some shape or form, we have Miles with his shock venom power that he has, like, creates a sword out of it. I don't even know how that happens. He doesn't even know how it happens. It just happens in the comic book. Like, he's like, a sword? How does that happen? So yeah, honestly, when it comes to Ziggler, he's just like, hey, I'm going to create a sword, but I don't know how it's going to work, right? So, very interesting book, as we just get to see one big, gigantic fight. The person dies, and we get to see a very heroic thing that Miles does. He saves his family. His family loses everything. They lose their home and everything else. But Misty Knight is taking Miles under her wing, and she's going to provide housing for the family, and it looks like these two are going to team up in the future. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this book a B+. There was some things that just didn't make sense, like, again, that sword thing, and it was a little bit all over the place when it came to the artwork. It was hard to make out what was going on, and now I don't know where this book is going to go from here because it's crossing over with Carnage, so we'll see what happens, and I hope that Rabble comes back because I thought she was a cool villain for Miles. Okay, so with Miles, like I said, crossing over with Carnage, we have Carnage. This is issue 12, and it already happens in this comic book. By the time you wind up getting to the end of it, you wind up seeing Miles Morales in this book rescuing a hostage, right? That's basically what happens, and then Carnage makes his appearance at the very end of it, and he's wearing like this extremis armor that somehow Carnage got captured in King in Black, which I don't know, it's been a while, so I have to go back and reread that. This book, though, itself, when it comes to the Carnage series, it's kind of been like all over the place, man. Like, you have the symbiote is separated from Cletus, and the symbiote's been absorbing powers to survive. And then we have Cletus that's like part of a dragon, and you see the soul of him. It's just all weird and different. It's just so far out there. And the reason why is because it's written by Ram V. And Ram V also does Venom as well. And I don't like that book as much either because it's just so over the top. It's so like way out there from what the character used to be. Sometimes more's not always better, right? Simpler is better. And this book is just getting too convoluted for me. And overall, I just don't like it the way I did when it first came out, right? So again, it's crossing over with Miles Morales. We'll see what it has to offer. But at the end of the day, I'm giving this book a D. This was just not entertaining. I didn't care. I just want Carnage to be back to the way that he was, his murdering self, you know. Just don't recommend this. I guess if you want to read Miles and Carnage crossover, then maybe check it out. Next, we're talking about Mark Millar's Nemesis Reloaded, guys. Phenomenal book right here. Phenomenal series. We got the evil Batman. That's what you got to call Nemesis. We're learning about his origin story, about how he became the person that he is. And in this book, he's getting revenge on the LA Police Department because he holds them responsible for killing his parents. And it's the crew that basically took his parents in and gave them the death penalty and caused them to die. And we get to see him cause this murder and mayhem and get revenge against the police through this entire issue. It just continues. The mayor, he winds up kind of like playing with him. He shoots him in his leg and he says, "You're not supposed to die till Friday." There's this one police officer that was in a wheelchair where she got shot in the back, and it reminded me of Barbara Gordon, which I think, if you're a Batman fan, I think you get that vibe here. She's stuck in a wheelchair, and basically Nemesis kills her by lacing her I don't know what it was, or Jack Daniels or whatever it was that she was drinking, and she was basically paralyzed where she couldn't move at all, and he basically burned her to death. Like, it is so disturbing and sick, but it's like you always want to know what this guy does next. He's so over the top, so off the wall, and now the mayor has got to sacrifice himself to bring himself into Nemesis, answer all his questions, and if he doesn't do it, or if he doesn't sacrifice himself, he's going to destroy the city. And at the end, we wind up getting to see the mayor attached to like this nuke or whatever. So yeah, Nemesis is going to nuke the city if this mayor does not cooperate. So intense. I love this comic book. This book gets an A+. This is a top pick for me. I will definitely recommend this book every day of the week. It is so well done. Yes, we don't believe in police brutality and stuff like that, but this is a fiction story. It's something that you don't believe in. Just, it's very entertaining. It's evil Batman. It's like, what if Batman killed everybody instead it didn't kill everybody? Next, we have Radiant Black. We're on issue 23. 2 issues away before this gigantic war takes place in the series. Totally excited about it. And in this issue, we've gotten to see this book open up on a very lighthearted thing as they're trying to, like, I don't know, trademark things when it comes to Radiant Black. They're trying to make money for themselves why they can. And then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose as they go to the Yellow Radiant, and he's just basically freaking out, and he realizes that there is going to be a war that's going to happen very shortly. There was this signal transmitted to all the other robots out there, and the next thing we wind up seeing is we get 3 or 4 more of these robots that they fought in earlier issues, and you're like, oh my god, the action is off the wall right from the start. Now, the Radiant Black thing, or the Radiant, has been acting funny. They've been losing powers. They can't rely on it. They've been sharing the power. Well, supposedly when their family dog winds up getting injured, I think it was Nathan, or was it Marshall? Nathan? No, it was Marshall. He winds up freaking out, and he takes the Radiant, and he uses all his rage, and it becomes something much more. When it comes to Radiant Black, he like levels up to like Super Saiyan, man. I mean, it's just insane. He's got this cloak, and he's like glowing out of his eyes and everything like that, and you're just like, holy cow. And he starts taking out these robots like they're absolutely nothing, and you're just like, man, oh man, this thing is so strong. But Radiant has been glitching. It's still not right. He comes back to normal, and Marshall is almost like dead on the floor. So they have to go see somebody else, get more recommendation, and it's just all leading to issue 25, which is going to be, you know, their like big event or whatever it is for this comic book. This book is an A. This book is always a recommend. Things are building. It's not an event that just pops out of nowhere, right? It's all started from that very first issue. You got introduced to Nathan, you got introduced to Marshall, you got introduced to all these other Radiants, and now there's this war that's going to happen, and I find myself so vested in this thing. Okay, here we go. 8 billion Genies, the conclusion. So this almost took a whole year to get 8 issues out, but we're finally here. And if you have the time to read this book, right, sit down, give yourself a half hour, 40 minutes, and you can truly appreciate this book on its own, okay? And what this story is about, it's about the bartender of that bar on when he got Earth, because he was the last genie of the last world standing. And when you are that last genie, you become a human on the next world that's going to have the 8 billion genie day, or G day, or whatever the heck they call it. So you get to see him become a human in here, and he gets to change any form that he wants. He can start off as an infant, he can become a girl, he can become a guy, he can become old, he can become young, he can change his ethnicity, he can change into anything. And we get to see him experience, you know, before the next day comes, like what would be the perfect wish. And he experiences everything in life, you know, plagues, just all kinds of stuff, love. And you know, it was a very touching issue, because at one point he felt like, oh, I need to figure out the perfect witch. So he created like a plague. And then he felt guilty, and he's like, man, well, I need to have a century with just making love and making babies. And it was just so hilarious. But seeing that story was quite interesting. Like I said, it took time to read, but I loved learning about the history of the bartender, because that was one of the major plot points here. And then we get to see the ending, and we get to see everything wrap up, and that was it, man. Right? It may not be the ending that some people really wanted, but at least it gave you depth of that bartender, which I really appreciated. And issue 7 was really the ending of like the supporting cast, where you look at that bartender as the main character. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this conclusion a B. It might be not everything for everybody, but I really enjoyed it and the overall series as a whole. Barbaric. This is issue 3, Hell to Pay. This volume has not been as strong for me, as I feel like they've lost the focus on Owen a little bit. He's not even holding the axe, and I feel like as the wielder of the axe, he is what makes the comic book. Here we have Soren, who's a supporting cast character, who is a sorceress, who is pretty cool when she is with Owen. She is not with Owen. She's actually with her, I think it's her mentor, and her name is Sarah. And she comes across battling her and things like that. We get to see Owen back in trying to get back to the real world, and he's battling other people. It's a cool fantasy book, but it's just not as strong. The artwork is gorgeous, and I think there's one more issue to go in this volume, but I think at this point, I don't think we need any more barbaric volumes. I thought the first volume was really good. I thought the second volume was really good. The third volume is okay, as it's focusing on the supporting cast members to maybe make more barbaric spin-off books. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to give this one a C+. It wasn't horrible. It's still entertaining, but I feel like it's just lost a little bit of that excitement that it once had when the first volume came out. Now, unlike 8 Billion Genies, where that took like 40 minutes to read, Phantom Road issue 2 wound up taking about 5 minutes to read. But this book from Jeff Lemire is quite interesting, very intriguing, as we get to see this trucker who got into an accident with this female, okay? And they came across this relic, and they touched this relic, and now they go into this upside down world, I guess you could call it, where everyone has like these blank faces, and our main cast of characters are 2 characters. They don't know what to do. They're like completely lost. So they go to a truck stop, and all of a sudden they go to this truck stop, and then everything is back to normal again. And then they come across this weird guy in this booth, and I don't even know who this guy is, but he knows everything what's going on. He's like, oh, you gotta talk to me. And he's like, I can help you out. And he tells you, like, you're between 2 worlds. You're between this blank world and the real world. And Don, who is the truck driver, he's like, screw you. He's like, I want nothing to do with you. I'm leaving here. And so when the world winds up becoming the way it was, you know, our character, she winds up leaving. She tries to leave. And all of a sudden, as she gets further and further away from the truck, and I think her name is Birdie, she gets further and further from the truck, she winds up experiencing this extreme pain and gets sick. So she can't leave the truck or this relic. So what this relic is and what it does, who knows? But right now, our cast of characters, Don and Birdie, in between 2 worlds, and they accidentally murder a person because when Don was kicking this creature's butt, it winds up becoming a normal human being, and then all of a sudden the sirens are sounding and they're going to be wanted for murder, and now they're running. Oh man, this book is a B. It's solid. It's solid. I got a lot of questions, and there's a lot of things I got to be answered here, and I just feel like I need more. Like, I like the 2 characters. I like Birdie. I like Don. Who's that guy in the booth? Why does this world exist? Why do they become these blank zombie-like creatures? Like, and what is the point of this book, right? There's so much there. Next book we're talking about is Superman Lost, issue 2. Issue 1, I thought was very boring because you wind up finding to get to see Superman, like the contraption he created in order to get lost. And then you wind up finding out he comes back 20 years later from his time, right? Where no time has passed for Lois, but 20 years has passed for Superman. He's like suffering through PTSD. He had to survive in space, so he finds himself holding his breath. He's sleeping on the floor. He's beside himself. And you get to see kind of everything that he suffered through during this time period, or you're getting to see that. And you see this first instance here. And it was boring, dude. I didn't care. They dropped him off at the wrong Earth and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? Not fun. Not cool. I was just like, yeah, who cares? It just was a nothing story. It just nothing interesting. And just when he leaves this particular Earth, guess what? He's going to another one. And you get to see what he dealt with at some other place, right? This book for me was a D. Great artwork, okay moments, but I thought this would be something much better than what it had to offer. And it's each issue with him going to be, you know, him dealing with a different time period or a different Earth. I don't know. The first two weren't that interesting, so I think I'm going to drop this one altogether. X23 Deadly Regenesis, as we have Laura, who is doing battle against a future MMA pro. That's right, guys. His name is Haymaker. That's right. He's fighting MMA superstar. Come on, dude. How does an MMA guy try to win against Laura? Well, in this book, you actually find that out because Laura doesn't really fight back, okay? So we learn the story about these two brothers who are looking out for each other. One guy, one of the older brother or whatever it is, he works for the Kingpin. He's getting money, and he believes in his brother, which his name is Jordan, who thinks he's going to be this MMA future star, right? And in the comic book, we wind up seeing the older brother go out into a job, and we see that Laura is controlled by Kimura, who accidentally kills the older brother. So now this Haymaker character is out for blood, and we get to see this fight happen. There is page after page after page of fighting. Laura doesn't fight back. She doesn't want to kill this guy, and she can't. She's just doesn't have her abilities because there was this gas that was used, right? So by the time we wind up getting to see all of the flashbacks of what happened and this vendetta that Haymaker has, we get to see her shoved in the back of a truck, and we wind up getting to see her getting captured by Kimura. I guess that's how you say her name. And that was the issue. What do I gotta give this issue? I gotta give this one a C+. I thought it's good. You know, it seems like a book that obviously takes place in a time where Laura was part of, you know, X-Force and whatnot. She's still trying to discover who she is. She has a person that wants revenge against her. She has her creator or her mentor that was watching after her, that wants possession of her once again to control her, to do her evil bad things. I think they try to make this for new readers, and they try to make this for readers that are familiar with the character. I just don't know where the book is going to go and what it's going to accomplish by the time you get to the end of it. But sometimes, hey, that's okay, right? I mean, it's okay to just have a book that's just fun and you have lots of fun with it. Nocterra, issue 13. Guys, this book was absolutely phenomenal, as this is another top pick for the week. This book is so good as we get to see a little bit of the history of Emery, who is the adopted brother of Val, and we get to learn about how he possibly had his birth parents looking for him, or he found out where they actually lived, and it was very close, and he wound up going to their house to discover who they actually were. And he relates this to everything that's going on in the current world of Nocterra, which is these shades taking over human bodies, and we live in this world of darkness and whatnot. We learn more about Blacktop Bill and what happened to him in this issue, and we find our cast of characters trying to go to Eos, which is this place of light, that if they can get this equation, that they can actually bring the light back to the world, because this crazy thing is blocking out all of the light and creating all these creatures on the earth. Absolutely insane. This book's artwork is top notch from Tony S. Daniel. The character emotions are so great, and we get to see some great action and adventure in this comic book, where we see Val, who is running against all the shade creatures to try to get into the place known as Eos. Guys, like I said, this book is a top pick. This is the second one for this week that I discussed that you should pick up. This is an A+. Nocterra and Nemesis. This book never disappoints when it comes to Nocterra. always pick it up. So there you guys have it. There are the grades for the rest of the books that I read for the week. And now if you want to check out the new #1 issues that I read for the week, and if I deem them worthy or not worthy, check out this video right here. You're not going to want to miss it. This helps you decide if you want to jump on that new series. And of course, guys, as always, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, always read those comics. Guys, I'll see you real soon. Bye.